Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Berto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. As you can see right now, we have some issues with our, what should I call it? We have some issues with our background, but we will get that fixed for you as soon as possible and then get right into the program. But anyhow, let's talk a little bit about what's going on here, folks. Did you see the debate? What did you think about the debate? I'll tell you what I thought about the debate. I thought, well, I brought in an analyst last night. You know, she sent out the memo saying, I'm doing analysis on the thing today, and I said, great. I'm going to catch her before she goes to bed. And you know what? I caught her before she got to bed. Let me go ahead and try to clean some of this stuff up as we go here. I think I'll be able to get something done here. You know, every so often you get into a situation where things get crazy. I think that looks better. That may be a bit better, right? So let's go ahead and put that on. Oh, it's sort of looking the way it should be now. It's looking the way it should be. Anyhow, we have a lot to talk about, folks. We have a hell of a lot to talk about. And we're going to do that now. But the first thing I wanted to ask you is, what do you think about the debate? Well, Bridge MCP is here. Michael Rudnan is here. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what you thought about the debate? Because I tell you, my concerns are right now that we don't quite, what is the word that I want to use? There's a special word that I want to use here. We don't quite have it down yet as far as what's going on in this country. But it doesn't matter. And you know why it doesn't matter? It doesn't matter because, well, we're going to have things together. Now, what's the program about today? Let's go ahead and bring that baby up. Let's go ahead and bring that up. Little bit of technical difficulties, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Title of the show today, VP Debate, Kristin Arnold's Analysis. Who won? Packing the courts. Militia plot. Yeah, there was a militia plot. The debate says more than the questions asked. Why Kamala Harris won the 2020 vice presidential debate against a lying Mike Pence? Here is why Biden-Harris must ignore unfair calls to address court packing. FBI disrupted a violent militia plot to overthrow the government and kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. After the vice presidential debate, rules analyst Kristin Arnold visited us and pointed out there was no debate. She points out why. So let's go ahead and start with the program today with why Kamala won the debate and some other issues. I kind of had some issues with it yesterday, but here we go. Susan Page, horrendous moderator. She allowed Mike Pence to do as he pleased, and she tried to put chains on Kamala Harris. It was very obvious. There were times she gave her a whole minute, gave Pence a minute to answer, and then tell Kamala, okay, you can take 30 seconds to answer it. It was a clear and present bias. And still above that, Kamala Harris did what she needed to do. I really like the way she kept her calm and did what the dignified thing was to do, even as we had this macho attempting to do the mansplaining to two women under and with the moderator acquiescing to his sexism. Let's take a look, though, at who won the debate.
Now for the results. Kamala Harris, the clear winner, according to debate watchers in our flash poll. 59% say she won the debate tonight. 38% say Mike Pence won the debate tonight. And here's some evidence to back that up. What winning a debate means: improving your position from where you went in. Take a look. We asked about whether people had a favorable opinion before the debate of both candidates and after. Look at the progress that Harris made. Before the debate, 56% said they had a favorable opinion of her. After the debate, 63%. She increased her favorability by 7%. Mike Pence held steady. He didn't lose any ground, but he didn't make up any ground. 41% before the debate favorable, 41% after the debate favorable. The critical question for a VP candidate: Are they qualified to be president? Can they step into that top job? 63%, nearly 2/3 of debate watchers will say yes, Kamala Harris is ready and qualified to be president. And Mike Pence, the sitting vice president of the United States, he scores equally as well in that category. 65% say he is ready and qualified to be president. Only 34% of debate watchers said that he is not.
Even with the headwinds coming from both the vice president and Susan Page, she still pulled it out in the eyes of the American people who watched the debate. Sadly, sometime in this country, we're going to have to really get things working in a fair, equitable manner, because Susan Page should be ashamed of the way she conducted that particular moderation. It is obvious for those who really want to open their eyes to see how a biased debate is conducted. Now, a lot of people gave some interesting advice to Biden as far as what he should do about the debate. In other words, should Biden and those guys talk about packing the courts? Should they have answered that question not placed by the moderator, but that the vice president directly asked Kamala Harris? And the truth of the matter is, perdóname, absolutely not. And I'm going to explain it here, and then we'll take it on the other side. And while this video is playing, I get a chance to do a lot of other things that we need to get done. But check this out. The right has put into the ethos that Democrats are going to pack the court. They want that to be a narrative. And then the mainstream media picks it up. And then they start their own narrative. Yeah, maybe they need to give a complete answer to that. Hell no. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Kamala Harris last night, Senator Harris, point blank, if she and Joe Biden would pack the court, she didn't answer. Neither did Joe Biden in the first debate. In fact, here's that exchange.
Do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's have that discussion.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Senator. Let's go on and talk about the issue of racial justice.
I just want the record to reflect she never answered the question.
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're
to answer the
senators.
question. So, Mike, how should they be navigating that question? Because, again, neither one of them seems to have answered it so far.
Well, they haven't answered it well, and I think there's going to have to be some sort of an answer. I mean, look, there's a couple things about this that I think are really important. The first is the average American, the average voter doesn't know what you're talking about when you're talking about packing the court. People who pay close attention to this and are, methodically watching what the issues are clearly do. But the non-answers, I think, have to you've got to throw that out and kind of come up with something a little bit better. Whether it's a yes or a no, just make your case and go forward with it. If there's a legitimate argument to be made that the balance of the court needs to be reconstituted. I'm not suggesting that, but it's a legitimate answer. It's a legitimate policy answer. And if that's where you're at, then just say it. I think what it's done, this unfortunately, and I think this answer really was probably the weakest point in Kamala's night, even though she had a very strong night. And I think that it exposes something that simply doesn't need to be exposed. Seal it up. It's clear that Trump and Pence are going to try to open this up as an issue. It excites the Republican base as however it's constituted at this point in time. I think also because of what's happened with the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the jamming of this nominee, the Democrats, the American left, and progressives are waking up and saying, hey, this needs to start being a central political issue for us as a party, for us as a movement, the way it has been for conservatives for the past 30 years, and start driving that as an issue. The courts are going to be an issue, then make it an issue. But I think that just not answering doesn't get you very far.
I completely, entirely disagree. Republicans have been packing the courts for quite a while. Packing the courts, they didn't need to expand the courts. Why? Because they have an undemocratic control of the Senate. So we have a minority of Americans that are given the power to our courts who interpret laws that are being packed by people elected by a lesser amount of Americans than the folks who vote as Democrats. So what we have is a Republican Party that has been continuously packing the court. Did the mainstream media talk about in any detail? That is really unfair because it is not representative of those people who you will be judging. They never talked about that. They simply talk about, it was ignored. So when Kamala said, you want to talk about packing the court, I was happy to see her talk about packing the court. Now, let me tell you what I hope she had said. I didn't want her to go say, of the 50 people in these district courts, they were all white or not one was black. I didn't want her to say that. I wanted her to say, you have been filling the courts in your right now with people representing the minority of Americans, while under the Obama administration, you held up judgeships left and right, causing the filibuster to have to be busted for the lower courts. Else, Obama would have gotten even less court appointments, even as he has served 8 years. And Donald Trump, in 4 years, would have stolen 2 Supreme Court justices, again, with less people supporting Donald Trump and with less people supporting the senators who represent or who will be assigning those judges. So let's be real here. This is not a discussion that the Biden-Harris team need to feel they need something to explain to the American population. They don't. The current situation in the American court system is that we have a lot of undemocratic of the courts with people not representing the majority of Americans. And that is a discussion, right? We cannot ever cede the argument to these people. They try to put Democrats, they try to put progressives in a box. Here is the facts, and all of you need to be preaching this, okay? The court system in America today continuously get more undemocratic because we have been using the small state model. The small state model means how the hell can Nebraska, Idaho, and all these other small states in population get 2 senators, and the court system is built on the president and the senators, right? And the Electoral College has a weighting, meaning it's weighted towards smaller states who get bigger representations, right? So what that means is you have an if you don't have a large enough win in an election, you have an undemocratically elected president, meaning less people supporting the person who rules the nation. That's not democracy. And número dos, you have a Senate that is not representative of the amount of people. And that body has a lot of power because that body assigns the judiciary. So therefore, you have 2 branches of the government, 2 branches of the government that is completely and entirely controlled by the minority. So when they come and they tell you, are you going to try to mitigate that aberration within the Constitution? Are you going to try to do the right thing so that if you get that overwhelming win in November, meaning you win the Senate, you win the House, you win the presidency, that you don't try to correct what was done undemocratically? First of all, if you don't do that correction, you got a problem. You're not really a Democrat, a realist for democracy, small d Democrat. But you don't need to be forced to answer that question because nobody asked when they were packing the courts, these lower courts, with all these inept people that would not pass the bar. When they were doing that, I didn't see the mainstream media going and saying, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that." They may say, "Oh, they're putting somebody in the court that's not representative or whatever," and then it's over. People, it's hardball time. Hardball time for democracy. Hardball time for fairness. And this has nothing to do with ideology. This just has to do with being fair. So therefore, Biden, Harris, absolutely do not answer that question. Do not be placed in a box. Allow them not to tell you how you should answer the questions when Donald Trump has still not released his tax papers, and he just let them ask till they got tired of asking. He hasn't released a whole lot of stuff, and they ask. And he just says, to hell with you. I'm not doing it. You know what? I am glad that we have Kamala Harris showing that she has some, and our Biden showing that he has some balls. And sorry for using the two terminologies, but that is how I feel at this point in time. Maybe a little bit less than civil, but worth it, or I think it's worth it. Now, what happened today? We had we averted a potential terrorist attack today. And I want to thank somebody in the, I fell into the same trap. I fell into the same trap until I saw the message from, let me see if I want to find that message, because I want to give you credit for changing the way I am saying this, my friend. I love the people who watches, comes here, because you make things better. You make things better. Okay, come on. I thought, okay, somebody here put, let me see. Let's see. I want to find it. Anyhow, I can't find it right now, but there was a potential terrorist attack where the Michigan governor was going to be kidnapped, placed on trial, and likely murdered today. Okay, I think it was in the last thing that the person did. So here's the deal. Please, whoever was here before, I think it was before we crashed, you put in the comments, you put, don't call it a militia plot, call it what it is. They averted a terrorist act by the right-wing militias. Please, whoever, I want to give you credit. I want to name you. So if you are still here, please tell me who is it that said that. FBI disrupted violent militia plot to overthrow the government and kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. That's what occurred. And what I want to play you is the piece that was done by Governor Gretchen, because what she did, Governor Whitmer is what I should say, what she did is she challenged Donald Trump straight up. This stuff it's not long, but it's more than the 5 minutes max that I try to normally keep under. But this woman is my hero. Check out what she had to say and how she took care of Donald Trump in her remarks.
Good afternoon. Earlier today, Attorney General Dana Nessel was joined by officials from the Department of Justice and the FBI to announce state and federal charges against 13 members of 2 militia groups who were preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me. When I put my hand on the Bible and took the oath of office 22 months ago, I knew this job would be hard. But I'll be honest, I never could have imagined anything like this. I want to start by saying thank you to our law enforcement. Thank you to the fearless FBI agents. And thank you to the brave Michigan State police troopers who participated in this operation, acting under the leadership of Colonel Joe Gasper. I also want to thank Attorney General Nessel and the U.S. Attorneys Burge and Schneider and their teams for pursuing criminal charges that hopefully will lead to convictions, bringing these sick and depraved men to justice. As a mom with 2 teenage daughters and 3 stepsons, my husband and I are eternally grateful to everyone who put themselves in harm's way to keep our family safe. 2020 has been a hard year for all of us. Hard for our doctors and nurses and truck drivers, grocery store workers. It's been hard for the teachers and students and parents. Hard for those who have had to stay isolated to stay safe. And it's not over yet. But here's what I know. We're Michiganders. We have grit, we have heart, and we are tough as hell. We made it through the Great Recession. We made it through auto bankruptcies. We made it through floods and polar vortexes. But none of us has faced a challenge like COVID-19, not in our lifetimes. I've said it many times, we are not one another's enemy. This virus is our enemy, and this enemy is relentless. It doesn't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, young or old, rich or poor. It doesn't care if we're tired of it. It threatens us all, our lives, our families, our jobs, our businesses, our economy. It preys on our elderly and medically vulnerable residents. And it has exposed deep inequities in our society. This should be a moment for national unity, where we all pull together as Americans to meet this challenge head on with the same might and muscle that put a man on the moon. Seeing the humanity in one another and doing our part to help our country get through this. Instead, our head of state has spent the past 7 months denying science, ignoring his own health experts, stoking distrust, fomenting anger, and giving comfort to those who spread fear and hatred and division. Just last week, the President of the United States stood before the American people and refused to condemn white supremacists and hate groups like these two Michigan militia groups. Stand back and stand by, he told them. Stand back and stand by. Hate groups heard the president's words not as a rebuke, but as a rallying cry, as a call to action. When our leaders speak, their words matter. They carry weight. When our leaders meet with, encourage, or fraternize with domestic terrorists, they legitimize their actions, and they are complicit. When they stoke and contribute to hate speech, they are complicit. In 1981, President Ronald Reagan spoke to the NAACP's annual convention, and his comments stand in sharp contrast to what we have seen on the national and state level from his own beloved party in 2020. He said, "A few isolated groups in the backwater of American life still hold perverted notions of what America is all about." Recently, in some places in the nation, there's been a disturbing recurrence of bigotry and violence. Then Reagan sent a direct message to those who still adhere to senseless racism and religious prejudice. "You are the ones who are out of step with our society," he said. "You are the ones who willfully violate the meaning of the dream that is America. And this country, because of what it stands for, will not stand for your conduct." So let me say this loud and clear. Hatred, bigotry, and violence have no place in the great state of Michigan. If you break the law or conspire to commit heinous acts of violence against anyone, we will find you, we will hold you accountable, and we will bring you to justice. For the past 7 months, I've made tough choices to keep our state safe. These have been gut-wrenching decisions no governor has ever had to make. And I get it. Life has been hard for us all. When I get out of bed every morning, I think about the high school seniors, like my daughter, who missed graduation ceremonies, or those Michiganders who've missed weddings and funerals. I think about all the moms who are working from home, making breakfast every day, logging their kids onto their Zoom class, and doing the laundry. Think about the small business owners who spent a lifetime building something great, who are now hanging on by their fingernails just to keep the lights on. The disruption this virus has caused to our daily lives is immeasurable, and it has already taken the lives of more than 210,000 Americans, including over 6,800 right here in Michigan. As painful as these losses are, our hard work and sacrifices have saved thousands of lives. We have one of the strongest economic recoveries in the nation. Make no mistake, there will be more hard days ahead. But I want the people of Michigan to know this. As your governor, I will never stop doing everything in my power to keep you and your family safe. You don't have to agree with me, but I do ask one thing. Never forget that we are all in this together. Let's show a little kindness and a lot more empathy. Let's give one another a little grace, and let's take care of each other. Wear your mask, stay 6 feet apart, wash your hands frequently, and look out for your neighbors. We are Michiganders. I know we can get through this. We will get through this. So let's get through it together. Thank you.
I love this. You know what? I've been doing a whole lot of thinking, right? And of all the things that are going right around the world. And I'm going to say this and, call it identity politics or what you want to call it. But I really think it is time for women to grab the mantle and start leading all these countries, leading all these organizations. Because we look around the world as far as the people that are handling the coronavirus the best, it's the countries being led by women. You take a look around, mostly by women. If you take a look around the world and you take a look at this country, America, and see the people trying to do something positive around, and instead of hearing a lot of the macho crap like Donald Trump going to the hospital and coming out of talking about beat this virus and you can't let, I mean, that's crap. Unscientific. This macho thing has got to go. All of us that share that testosterone-driven way of being, it's really killing folks around the world. And it's been doing it for a long time now. Maybe it's a time for a damn change, right? It is time. And I've been seeing the strength, that new kind of strength. It's about that time. Anyhow, folks, you know what time it is. Before we go to our interview, I want to go ahead and talk to you guys about, please become members. If you are on YouTube, please go ahead and click that join button and become a subscriber. We're starting to ramp up on our subscription base. Please, it's cheap. So click that join button if you are on YouTube and become a member. If you are not on YouTube right now, if you're watching us through Facebook, Periscope, or Twitch, here is the link. You go to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Now, you can also support us in a different way. You can also go through Patreon. Patreon is one of our premier forms of subscriptions. Please go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. That subscription gives you a lot of different levels, and you can give us different kinds of support there. Please consider doing that. You can also support us via PayPal, either one time or several times, via politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. And of course, you can shop at our store. But before I go to the store, please, you see that book that you see on the screen? It's worth it. How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. It's a book, and everybody who has read the book, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, everybody who has read the book, including our guest yesterday, said, wow, I got this out of it. I had another person that I spoke to that said, hey, Berto, I bought your book. And it gives me some ideas on how to talk to the other side. And you know what? I think that's where we need to be. Just go ahead on Amazon. There it is. There is a book. I gave you the link on Amazon. But if you don't want to use it on Amazon, you can just go to our store, which our store is at politicsdoneright.com/store. politicsdoneright.com/store. It seems like our Amazon link didn't go through on Facebook. Let me go ahead and do that again, and then we'll go to our guest. There we go. If you go to Amazon.com, just look up Egberto Willies or the name of the book. It's worth it. How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. I promise you, you're going to like the book. You're going to like the book. It'll also give you a few ideas, etc., etc., etc. Anyhow, folks, let's go ahead and have Kristin Arnold. She had some ideas about the debate. I had some ideas about the debate. Here we go. Welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. I'm Egberto Willis. I'm here with Kristin Arnold with she's a rules analyst for the presidential debate, and we just got through watching the debate. How are you doing today, Kristin?
I am doing great. How are you?
Well, I am fine after I saw the results. Well, for the people who watched the debate, who they thought won, I felt somewhat better, but I thought the debate was, the moderator was sort of biased. So, but before we get there, since you're the expert, I want to ask you your impressions of the debate, first of all.
Debate? Was it really a debate?
Oh, you're going to go there, aren't you? What was it? Tell me.
I thought it was a barrage of questions.
Okay. What was your impression of the barrage of questions?
Well, I think they were equitable in that there were the same number, for the most part, of questions to each candidate. I think that that the airtime was relatively balanced. I think the moderator had to intervene quite a bit to keep people on time. But the time frames were rather capricious.
Well, I mean, I don't know, I didn't do the time, and I imagine that's your department, so I imagine you checked the time. But somebody said, after I sent a tweet out, somebody said, yes, Mike Pence kind of took over some, but by the end of the night, he only got 3 minutes more than she did. I don't know if that's a timing that you got or not.
It's about a minute different.
A 3 minute different, right?
No, about a minute different.
Oh, you calculated 1 minute. Okay, while watching it in real time, the impression was that Mike Pence was going over and over much longer. And
it did. Yep.
Did you get that impression?
It felt that way.
Why?
But it really wasn't that way. The stats show pretty closely that he consistently went over longer, but not terribly much in a moderator's world. Like, there's a certain amount of, let them finish. And he would get the cue from the moderator of thank you. And he would keep talking and she would do thank you and thank you. I mean, Kamala Harris, when she got the first thank you, she pretty much wrapped up her comments.
Right.
So Pence got intervened by the moderator about 2 to 3 times more frequently than Harris did.
That's why I find it surprising that your calculations were only 1 minute, as opposed, given the amount of times that and not only that, I thought, and please tell me if maybe my eyes were more colored than it should have been, but I thought she was quite a bit more deferential to the vice president than she was to the senator. One example is when out of sequence, she gave him the opportunity to answer what I would call an attack by Harris. And she told him, you have 1 minute to answer that attack. While when Harris forced herself to answer one of his attacks, she said, okay, take 30 seconds. Did you see that as well, or you didn't?
She did that actually for both candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there was a deferential there. I think there were several times where she was rather capricious again in who and when she would let people kind of jump in.
Right.
Well, and it's not even to go on, it was to jump in. I mean, there are several times where it was like, I'd like to respond to that. And, oh, okay. And she would let people go on if she felt, this is my opinion, if she felt like eventually they were going to get to answering the question, because honestly, both of them were dodging.
They dodge a lot. You're right about that. Now, there's one other instance, and I'm in my complaint phase that has nothing to do with context yet, because I want to ask you a little bit about context after. There was a point also where Kamala attempted to answer, and yes, she repeated something that she had said 2 questions or 3 questions back, and the moderator, Susan Page, said, well, you said that before. I don't think she ever did that to Pence, saying, well, you said that before.
No, she didn't do that before, but she was also running out of time. So she said these are the points you made earlier in the hour. And Harris said, yes, but I want to make the connection with my record, and she let her.
Right. But I just thought that it wasn't her. Again, I am not the moderator, the defender, but I just thought it was not her position to do that. And I think you're saying that, well, maybe it had to do with their having a time issue.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
a time issue because she was, I think she had maybe 5 minutes left, and she
Right.
still had to get to the election. And she still had to do the, her summary. So she was under a little bit of pressure to get moving. And so I think that's why she was like, we've already been over that ground.
Okay, Kristin, I'm gonna accept your interpretation of that, but let me tell you what my interpretation is. My interpretation is we still have this issue with women moderators being too deferential to males, allowing them to do more mansplaining than they would to a woman. And I've seen this not only with, let's say, Kamala, but when there is a man-woman debate. Even I saw that when we had all those Democrats on, in the debates. And again, that's sort of my impression, but you're the expert. Tell me about if there's anything about that.
Well, when I moderate, I'd like to think that I don't have that kind of unconscious bias, but maybe you've got something there. I
see it mostly from I see it quite often from women proper. In other words, I see too many times women are not aggressive with the men. If you remember and you and I spoke during the Democratic debate,
right.
And if you would remember, sometimes the guys would just take over, and we'd have the women sit back and not say much. And when they decide that they're going to do that, even the women that are moderators would kind of like, well, let's give the guy a chance to talk. That's the and I'm a guy, and that's the impression that I got.
Yeah. So in this case, I think both Harris has the chops to debate well.
Yes.
I think she came across fairly strong. Do I think that Page was deferential to Pence? I honestly couldn't answer that because I wasn't looking at it through that lens.
To those lenses. You know what?
It's just something that I choose to look at what your role was.
Right.
I think she was equitable. I don't think she pressed people either side. She didn't press one or the other.
Right.
She didn't follow her own ground rules. So to me that speaks volumes to your ability to moderate. I think from a strategic standpoint, her MO, I think, almost leaned too far to compensate for last week.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I got you. Now I'm going to ask one favor of you as an expert, and that is, I find I find that this is something like, please drop me an email if you ever watch it again, because I find that when folks are from a particular aggrieved class or whatever, they're so set in their ways that we'll just disregard that and not even see that. Let's just work with the stuff at hand. So that would be a question. But
well, I have to wonder, since you're bringing this up, because Biden does the same thing.
Yes.
He's much more deferential. He's like, and I've just run out of time. And, whereas I think the Republicans classically in this campaign year have tend to just like say, okay, well, I'm gonna use the airtime that I'm given, and when I'm told to be quiet, then I'll be quiet.
Right. Exactly.
So I think there might be a philosophical shift versus an aggrieved class comment.
Okay. Well, I'll take that.
But maybe the Democrats are the aggrieved class. I don't know.
Well, they must look. Let me tell you, when you have won the popular vote in the last 5 or 6 elections, and somehow you're not in power, and somehow most of the Supreme Court justices don't reflect you, and the whole Second Circuit courts and all of that doesn't reflect you, I think you're kind of an aggrieved party, because you have the popular vote, you have the people on your side, but you don't have the power where it counts. But anyhow, substance of the debate. What's your thoughts?
Well, I don't really comment on the substance. I comment more on process.
Okay.
Like, was the process fair, equitable? Did the moderator do a good job? Were the views expressed? Were the questions answered? I think the follow-up was poor.
When I say substance, I'm not talking ideological substance. I'm talking about whether the types of questions that were asked were the necessary questions of the moment that any moderator should have given today's reality in the country.
I think some were pretty soft.
I thought so as well. I thought that there was so much happening in the country right now that they're on different ideological sides. So, I mean, they could have been asked the same questions to give America a chance to see how these things would have been resolved. And I wondered how an expert like you would have seen that. Should they have done that or not? Should she have asked those questions different? I find a lot of these debates that the questions are just so shallow.
Well, I mean, they're not built to be a question that you need 5 minutes to answer.
Right.
Right. So just the inherent structure of these debates are kind of cringeworthy. And, so how much substance are you going to get when you only have 2 minutes to answer a question? So, I mean, the thing that I thought about this one is there was no consequence for answering the question or not. You could pivot it, you could answer it, you could answer the question before, you could change what you wanted. And I felt that they were doing a lot of their stump speech that I've heard in other places. And I would prefer to hear, what is your vision for the future, not how you compare or stack against your competitor. I mean, for me, this is the piece that's lacking a lot in our civil discourse right now, is we're too busy pointing at the other person. And even the questions are compare and contrast. How are you different than the other person? Versus tell us about what your vision for the future is. Tell us, how are you going to fund that? How are you going to get both parties to agree to it? I mean, it's one thing to say, yes, I'm going to do something. Okay, great. How are you going to get that done? How are you going to create that political will for that to happen? Those are some things that I would like to see.
Well, Kristin, maybe the next debate, we may have to transition out of using one of these network people and ask you to get in there and get some of the work done. You're game for that?
Oh, yeah, right. I don't think anybody's ever going to ask me. In fact, I had a friend of mine who texted me during the last debate, and they're like, could you please do the next one?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, right.
I mean, you sit down and you watch these and you really start to pull your hair out because you think it could be so much better. And these are the guys that have the airwaves, they have the airwaves, and we sit down here and what can I say?
Yeah, but also the Commission on Presidential Debates owns the format.
Right.
So Susan Page was handed the format, 2 minutes, quote unquote, deeper discussion. You have to do 9 topics somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was handed that format. Well, you're not going to get a deep, meaningful discussion. But if you go way back into the histories, these debates would last 2.5 hours.
Right.
And it was a single topic or maybe a couple of topics. And they would say, you have 30 minutes. And then you have 30 minutes. And then you have 10 minutes to rebut. And you have 10 minutes to rebut. I mean, that's a classical debate format. We're not following a debate format. We're providing sound bites for the news channels.
And I guess that's how you started that's how you answered the first question when I asked you, what you thought about the debates, and then you asked what debates. So maybe we should end it there. What debates?
What debates? Well, maybe we'll have one in a week, or maybe we won't. They
I don't.
sounded at the end like, and there'll be a debate next week. I'm like, really?
You know as well as I know that there won't be any more debates. Donald Trump is sick. Donald Trump is genuine. I think he is much more sick than we believe right now. I think he's sick. I don't
Well,
think,
regardless of whether he's sick or not, I can't comment on that.
right.
All I know is that you're contagious for up to 14 days.
Oh, it's a whole 14 days. I do. Okay.
Well, I'm in Canada right now because my husband's Canadian. I'll be going
Mhm.
back to the United States in a couple of weeks. When we came up here to Canada, we had to self-isolate for 14
14
days.
days, yes. Wow.
Okay. And I didn't even have COVID. Okay. Well, I would expect that anybody who has been exposed has a 14-day quarantine.
Kristin Arnold, rules analyst for presidential debates. It was my pleasure to have you on Politics Done Right again. If there's another debate, you'll hear from me again.
Excellent, Egberto. Always good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, folks, I hope you like that. Now it's time for me to go ahead and talk to my people. Norman Reynolds, how are you doing? Norman says these political debates are there to show up the blind spots of the opponent. In this interview, Ms. Arnold is asking for depth that the current debate format does not support. Okay, so welcome Norman Reynolds. Welcome Tank 28, Brige MCP. Let's see who else. Christine Park. Para ver quién más está aquí. Roberto Luis, mi panameño favorito. Okay, let's see who else is here. Well, Paul Fleming. Welcome, Paul. We got to do that. Paul is going to be a guest on Politics Done Right pretty soon. Let's see who else is here. Who else is here? Michael Rudnin, I think he had to step out. Let's see. I think I got Christine already. Got Tank. Gosh, a lot of messages today. Who else is here? Para ver, we've made over 100 and something messages this quick, guys. Charlie Lindahl. How you doing, Charlie? Charlie, a good friend of mine as well. How you doing, Charlie? Haven't seen you in a while. COVID, man, COVID. Let's see who else is here. Who else is here? Who else is here? Rusian Fernandez. Rusian Fernandez. Welcome aboard. Dwayne Gibson. She's a true hero and leader. She cares about people, about Whitner. You're absolutely right, my friend. Let's see who else is here. If I miss you, please just drop me a line and I'll call you out before we leave because I never like to leave any of my people unrecognized. Gordon Driscoll, welcome aboard. Dwayne Gibson, welcome aboard. Let's see, I think I got Paul Fleming. Yeah. Let's see who else is here. Who else is here? Carl Foster, welcome aboard. Who else? Bear with me, guys. I'm almost done with the list, I think. Dimitri OG, ¿cómo estás, mi amigo favorito? Dimitri OG. Who else? Coming down. We're coming down to going to the top. Going to the top now. Nanette Bird Smith. How you doing, mi hermana? Okay, and I think if I missed you, forgive me. Just drop me a line right now because I want to acknowledge you. Okay, anyhow, folks, we're coming to the end of the show. Please remember to support the program. If you are on YouTube, please hit that join button. Become a part of our posse. You know, every week we're going to do something together. You know, we may have a chat on Sunday. I'm not sure. Or we may have, sometimes we'll have a special something. That's the idea behind this all. We want to create different communities, our Facebook community, our YouTube community. Let's keep them all, and then our fused community through Patreon, all that good stuff. Anyhow, folks, I'm going to go over by about 2 minutes because of the crash we had earlier. I saw you guys talking about the fly, and last night I wrote something about the fly. I'm going to put it on the screen. I'm not going to say it because it goes against my civility, my on-air civility policy. But here we go. This is what I tweeted last night. Okay, check it out. Let me blow it up a little bit. See if it'll show a little bit better. Oh, not there. I think I got to put this here. Blow this up. That is a tweet that I sent out with the fly. I took a picture of the screen and sent that out. Flies generally land on, and if it enough, it hangs out for a while. What does that say about Mike Pence? There you go. That was my little tweet. Did you like it? Let me know if you like the tweet that I sent out. And by the way, if you're not following me on Twitter, please go to Twitter and follow me, Egberto Willies on Twitter. Egberto Willies on Twitter. I haven't bought the book yet, gotten the book yet. There is the book. And what is the name of the book again? The name of the book is It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. Believe it or not, I still have to go to the title of the book to get the subtitle, because I can never get it in the right order, even though I wrote it. Mira, I need to give a big shout out to my brother, Norman Reynolds. Thank you very much for becoming a subscriber on YouTube. He hit the join button. Who else is going to hit the join button so that I can say welcome aboard? We're almost done here, so click on that join button if you will now. I'll go ahead and acknowledge you. If I don't acknowledge you now, I'll acknowledge you later. Folks, I know you have places that you could have been. I know there's much that we can do. Look, I say this all the time, and I need to say this again. This is only the beginning. We need to go out there and win. It's only the beginning. Okay, it's only the beginning. But I'll tell you, Blair Hafley, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. After Biden wins. Tim Whites, welcome aboard. After Biden wins. It is just the beginning. We have a lot of work to do. And you're going to hear me say this near the end of the program every single time. We have a lot of work to do, and we will do it. And we will be here to promote each other to get the job done. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.